Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program today. We hope that you're doing well and you've had a great week so far. And we have a great show for you because we have Ralph Bond. Every Friday he joins us to bring you 4 different stories and all of them are great. Just looking through them, everything from robotics to medical technology to, and I really like the timing of this one because, Thanksgiving just happened, Christmas is on the way, and you're definitely going to want to stick around for story number 4 because, it almost seems like nowadays it's not enough to just buy a toy. And don't get me wrong, recently for some kids we bought some Stretch Armstrongs. They're still around and they're still a lot of fun, but there are other toys out there that can do both entertain and educate. So story number 4 might be a good way to get thinking about ideas for the holidays. Now, everyone, with that being said, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, podcasts, and giveaways, contests, and more. And of course, social media links. Everyone, computeramerica.com is the best place to find everything, including a link to our guest website where Ralph really keeps all of his stuff together and, all of his segments here on Computer America, as well as over on KEX Portland with the Mark Mason Show. So everyone, if you want more Ralph, we got that for you. If you just want to say, Ben, hurry up, let's start the show, I got that for you too. So everyone, welcome onto the program once again, Mr. Ralph Bond. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back. And I'll tell you what, we're going to kick things off today. We do have a really great mixed bag of stories, but we're going to start things off with a breakthrough in 3D printing of homes.
Yeah, and hey, I know that the cost of homes has gone bananas lately. So hey, maybe this one's even made out of bananas. We don't know, but we'll get to that in just a moment. Ralph, for the new folks in the back, please enlighten them what we try to do on our segment.
Yeah, if you're new to our segment here that we do every Friday with that Ben and I do, I'll give you a little background on what I do. So I kind of think of myself as an aggregator of science and tech news features I find by monitoring a host of online news outlets all day, every day. I look for important stories that usually don't capture mainstream press attention, and sometimes they're weird and quirky, but not always. And sometimes they're actually pretty significant. I'm always on the lookout for news that gives a glimpse into where we're headed in robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, space research, physics, and you name it, anything and everything's could be a part of our topics that Ben and I talk on Friday. And what I do with each news item is present the essential points in a digestible form. And I stress to our audience to check out the show notes Ben just mentioned, excuse me, that are posted on computeramerica.com because it'll have the links and the pictures and so forth. And I want to stress a couple things. I don't create this content, I aggregate it. I look for articles. We always give attributions in the show notes, links, and credit to the author. And we just pick out the highlight points. If you want to dig deeper into the science, and so often there's such a wealth of additional information in the full articles, get the show notes. You'll have the links and you can dive in deeper. So with that said, I'm ready to go.
I think I am too. And like you were saying, story number 1 is, and of course, given your background with Autodesk, you've had a real penchant for construction engineering. And as we always say, whenever construction engineering comes up, it's not just concrete manual labor and, just kind of brute force. There's a lot of new stuff going on in the field.
Gosh.
So story number 1 exemplifies that.
And Ben, yes, to your point, a lot of technology in the construction industry today. It's not just shovels and hard hats anymore. It's computers and 3D design and so on and so forth. But anyway, headline here for the first story is world's first 100% bio-based 3D printed home created in the state of Maine. There were so many great things about that headline. I couldn't resist. Maine, you don't think of Maine as a hotbed of really advanced technology and so forth, but good for them. This is great.
Yeah.
Got this from interestingengineering.com. So interestingengineering.com, friends, is a really fun website. Check it out. Okay, late last month, the University of Maine's Advanced Structures and Composites Center unveiled the world's first 3D printed house called BioHome 3D, made entirely out of bio-based materials. Now, for some listeners, we need to give a little bit of background to help explain what we're talking about. So a couple of explanations. First, a 3D printed home refers to one that's made using computer-guided robotic arm-like devices that typically deposit layer upon layer of concrete to create foundations and walls. Now, to give you a visual, if you're not familiar with the world of 3D printing at this very enormous scale, if you think of construction sites, maybe for a high-rise or whatever, and you've seen those big crane-like devices with tubes, and the tubes come and they arc down and drop pour concrete into foundations and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In the world of 3D printing homes, you'll typically see devices that look like that, and they may be depositing concrete or plastic materials in layer upon layer to create foundations and walls and so forth. So that's what we mean by 3D printing a home. Don't think of the desktop 3D printers. Think of them on an enormous scale with these big tubular things. That's the picture you need to have in your head. And then let's talk about what...
Yeah,
go ahead.
And just real quick for anyone watching the video portion,
right.
The related video to the one that you sent,
yes.
There is the time lapse of the actual house being built.
Wonderful.
As well. So
yeah, that video is great, and that's part of the story too. That's different. That makes this a unique, not only the bio-based, but the way they made it. So
yes.
Bio-based, though, real quick, no surprise. Bio-based refers to products that are derived from plants and other renewable organic agricultural, marine, and forestry materials. So it's natural stuff, right? Not like concrete. Concrete's made up of natural components, but you get the picture. It's organic materials. And there's a source there for the definition of bio-based if you want to dig into that more in the show notes. So here's the deal. Instead of using something like concrete, the University of Maine team used a mixture of wood waste from sawmills and bioresin, which is also a biological or a bio product, to print the floors, walls, and ceiling as separate components off-site in a factory-like building, which you were showing in the video there from the news coverage that was done in the state of Maine. And then the components. So here's what's different. We talked about typical 3D printing of a home where on site, the big equipment with the tubular things are dispensing the concrete in layers, usually concrete. This is a different concept. They said, well, we want to take the best of both worlds, massive 3D printing of components for a building, but doing it offsite in modules, in components. And that's a big, big difference. Not only completely bio-based material being used for the printing, but the idea of making it in components, sort of like those when you go to Home Depot or whatever, and you see those backyard plastic sheds that you can buy and they come in a flat box and you put them together. Think of that kind of concept where you assemble it on site. So then the components for this experimental 600 square foot home with the electrical wiring, windows and doors pre-installed as part of the process, right, were transported to the home site and assembled on site as we just described. And here's what's so wonderful about this. The house is fully recyclable. And because of the nature of the 3D printing of this material, it's highly insulated, and its production produced very little waste, as I think the video you were showing bears truth to that, due to the precision of the 3D printing process. And so Ben and everybody out there, really, this is very important. This achievement is worth noting as it demonstrates the viability of using only renewable bio-based materials to 3D print affordable homes that could be mass produced quickly. Now here in the Portland, Oregon area, and we've talked about this problem around the nation of the homeless crisis, right? The tent cities and all this awful stuff that's going on. And it's a really serious problem here in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
What if you could have, and they talk about these homeless camps, I guess you could call, where you have little modular buildings, and that's all well and good. But for a more permanent kind of thing, maybe these 3D printed mini homes could be part of the equation of a solution. I don't know. Time will tell. But I just thought this story had so many bells and whistles, so many things that went ding, ding, ding. The modular, bio-based. Maybe it could be made out of bananas someday. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. The issue of homelessness is so big and so complex, and the little I know of it, one of the big problems with homeless people and getting help is that they're very they're kind of transient. There's no permanent address. They don't have a mailbox.
Right.
They don't have a permanent place to go keep belongings, things like that. So this solves all of that. Environmentally friendly. Like it, Ralph, you somehow managed to find a story that seemed like a positive overall, and 20,000 seems like a lot. But when you think about the social services that kind of go towards these issues and dealing with the symptoms and not getting at the root of it, that 20,000 actually seems like a bargain. And be able to mass produce these things environmentally friendly. This is an amazing story.
Yeah. And up here in the Northwest and many parts of our country where logging and the forestry and the wood industry, paper industry and so forth is such a big part of our economy. The idea of yet another interesting way to use sawmill waste, because of course we're making composite for decades. We've all been making composite boards and different things using the sawdust waste and mixing it with glues and compressing it and making boards and lumber and all that great stuff. But this is just another way to use the excess material, the sawdust, as you will, from the process of milling lumber to make this a wonderful, really clever. So salute to the University of Maine. I think this is just great. And it's so fun to have a story about Maine. How about that? Good for them.
You're right. That is not a typical name that comes up. Lots of California, lots of Colorado, lots of New York, places like that.
Northwestern University, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But not a lot of Maine. So amazing what they're doing there. And, everyone check out some of the other videos that they've posted as well, because they've, they have one for boats and things like that. So they have a massive 3D printer and they're really putting it to work. So we're going to end with one more comment and then we're going to move on to story number 2. But Ralph, I wanted your input. What do you think about the design? Because it looks almost the first thing that came to my mind was like Fred Flintstone. These houses are very retro, I guess you could say, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with how to support the structure with no internal supports and 3D printing. Right. But I mean, they don't look bad. But what do you think about the design?
It kind of looks like a cross between a mobile park trailer house and a camper kind of thing, like a stretched out RV camper trailer that you'd pull. It's kind of got that vibe. And, I think that if you're looking at economic, quick to put together structures, I think this is perfectly acceptable. I mean, hell, I'd live in it.
Yeah, no, and it has big windows, it has doors. I mean, from a suitable shelter point of view, perfectly acceptable. But I also kind of appreciate, it's not the most beautiful house, but it's not bad to look at. It's a good house, and I think that's also important to kind of go with it, because Ralph, if you're going to start putting these in places that people are going to see them, you don't want them to look dystopian and ugly. This looks good. So
I think so too. And another couple of thoughts is there's nothing that would prevent this process from being stackable. So you could make multi-story structures, perhaps. That's another possibility. And one thing comes to mind that we didn't mention before. What you and I do each Friday, folks, this is for the newbies, we are going to leave you feeling good.
Yes.
The purpose of this is we're the antidote to the horrible, negative, terrible news that you hear every day. War in Ukraine, all this sort of stuff. We're going to leave you feeling great about science and technology and hope for the future. That's one thing Ben and I love about this Friday morning segment.
Yes, definitely. And this is definitely a good feel-good story because, like I was saying, this hits all the check marks for being a good story. There's not really a lot of drawbacks. So I hope to see more of this. Really affordable housing. I think every city across the country is having to deal with this. So it's in Maine, but maybe in a town near you. Story number 1. Story number 2. This is a story that, I think we've been following for quite some time. Just the idea that people who are, incapable of mobility, getting around, using their arms and legs, that kind of thing. Medical technology seems to really be spearheading getting those people, maybe not full independence, but at least some measure of, kind of the basics, getting around, being able to do things on their own. So story number 2 really hits at that.
It sure does. And I have a real soft spot in my heart for any medical technology news that's helping people with challenges and disabilities. So headline here, this is an absolutely wonderful story, by the way, from scitechdaily.com. Wonderful outlet here. Headline: researchers show that quadriplegic people can navigate using mind-controlled wheelchairs. Wow. And the video that's in the show notes is actually showing you a camera mounted on one of the participants, one of the volunteers, as they traverse a series of obstacles in this hospital setting. Yep. So here's the story. Researchers at the University of Texas at Austin recently demonstrated that by translating a user's thoughts into mechanical commands, a mind-controlled wheelchair can help a quadriplegic paralyzed person gain new mobility. And just remember, this means arms and legs aren't working, folks. I mean, these poor folks are really very paralyzed. Mm-hmm. So three volunteers underwent training sessions 3 times a week for up to 5 months. And the participants wore a skull cap, which, if you see a picture of it, it's very familiar, that detected the brainwave activities through good old electroencephalography. And the detected electrical brain impulses were converted by a computer-based brain-machine interface algorithm/device to generate mechanical steering commands for the experimental wheelchairs. And I'll take an aside here for a moment. The article in question didn't dive really much more deeper than that basic information. My guess, Ben, is what they did and what took so long, up to 5 months, was monitor the brain pattern of the commands that they were thinking, and we'll get to that to a moment, and getting the pattern, that pattern in this person means go right or go left, if you catch my drift. And that's a really interesting thing that probably took a great deal of time. And it, in the article, does mention there was kind of a mutual machine and human learning experience. They have machine learning and human learning, so it's kind of symbiotic. So that's really interesting. But anyway, here we go. The participants were asked to control the direction of the wheelchair by thinking about moving both hands to turn left and both feet to turn right. So even though they're paralyzed and they have no feeling in these appendages, they could think about it, right? And by the end of the training, the participants maneuvered their wheelchairs around obstacles such as a room divider and hospital beds, which were set up to simulate a real-world challenging environment. Now, here's the results. 2 of the 3 volunteers finished the task successfully, and the article goes into a lot of detail about, I think it's volunteer 1 and volunteer 3. And their success rate. And one of the participants, though, did not succeed. But you know what? So what? I mean, this is such a promising step forward, so important. And it's going to get better and it's going to get faster and all that good stuff. And it's going to help a part of our population that's can you imagine not having any ability to use your arms or legs? Oh my gosh, to give some little bit of dignity to these people. God bless the University of Austin, or Texas in Austin, for doing this. Good for them.
Yeah, and just 2 different participants, 3 different participants, and I was just reading a little bit about participant number 2 that wasn't able to kind of do it, but it does show kind of the limitations that, despite a lot of companies that come on this show, AI and machine learning are not silver bullets. They won't solve everything, and still, like you said, more research needs to be done, but still for people who, and I guess that's really the cool part is you think that someone guiding a wheelchair, at least they can, at the very least kind of use a hand and navigate that way, turn their head left and right and, be able to look around. Right. These people can't do that. They're really just paralyzed, and the video is honestly kind of boring, but you got to imagine that if you are someone who has lost all mobility, that's something you never thought you'd be able to do again. So it's very, very impressive what they're able to do.
Yeah, like I said before, I think giving, if nothing else, some sense of dignity to these people. Can you imagine living a life like that? It would be so, I don't know how these people keep their sanity. God bless them.
Very tough. And hey, being able to advance medical research. I also like the idea that, they get to, they have to think about both, both both arms turning left and both legs turning right and that kind of thing. Those brain pathways that are already that are already established and probably very well established because, they were walking and, moving at one point, being able to measure that and translate that into movement, very, very ingenious, to kind of train them that way. So, great story number 2.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you had one more comment, because a little history of the past of trying to control wheelchairs and mobile devices. A lot of times what they've done with people in this condition is eye movements. So they'll have something that tracks your eye movements, and, I'll do my eyes to the left, right, that kind of up from forward, down for back, that kind of thing, or slight head movements if they're capable of doing that. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I think in the end, maybe it's a fusion of those kind of techniques along with this mind control stuff. Maybe ultimately will come together and create even greater command and control capabilities. But just a little bit of history about what's been done to date has been more the eye and head movement sort of thing versus the thinking, the mind control.
And I believe there's also one other control mechanism where it would go into their mouth and they could control it with their lips and tongue.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And be able to do that as well.
You're absolutely right.
And really a solution for everyone, and I'm sure that even just a little bit of difference in what they can do, it really, clearly one size doesn't fit all, and they're, developing new techniques. So very, very cool for story number 2.
Cool story.
Yeah, for sure. Story number 2. Story number 3, and hey, is that insensitive to say that, maybe one day story number 2 can control story number 3 and they get anywhere they want? I don't know, but still, story number 3 is a little bit different, and I think a lot of people are familiar with Boston Dynamics.
Of course, yes.
Yes, and this one is going to be in kind of the same vein.
Yes.
Yeah, so story number 3.
Yeah, this is fun. I got this from Carnegie Mellon University Newsroom. Wonderful website, by the way. The headline here is New Four-Legged Robot Can Traverse Almost Any Land Obstacle. And Ben, you're so right. When you look at this thing, you say, well, wait a minute, I've seen this before. This is like Boston Dynamics. They're little doggy robots, four-legged. Yes, it is, but there's some interesting twists to this story, and that's why I wanted to share it today. Yes. So researchers at Carnegie Mellon University School of Computer Science and the University of California, Berkeley, have designed a low-cost, and they didn't really get a lot of detail about the cost factor, but they say a low-cost robotic system that enables a small, four-legged, dog-like robot to climb and descend stairs nearly its height. I love the video. And easily traverse rocky, slippery, uneven, and steep terrain. It can also walk across gaps, scale rocks and curbs, and even operate in the dark. And you might be saying, well, that's great. That kind of reminds me of what I've seen at Boston Dynamics. But keep going with us here. The researchers trained this amazing little robot, which looks a lot like dog-like robots made by Boston Dynamics, as we've mentioned a couple of times already. They trained this thing using 4,000 clones of it in a computer simulator. So we're not talking about physical clones. We're talking about, virtual clones in a computer simulator where the simulated clones practice walking and climbing on challenging terrain environments. And the simulator also stored the motor skills it learned during the training in a neural network that the researchers copied to the real robot's control system. And I love this next bullet. This just melts my mind. The computer simulator speed allowed the robot to gain 6 years of real world simulated experiences in a single day. What?
Impressive.
Now, as we've been saying all along here, this is certainly not the first four-legged dog-like robot. We've seen this from Boston Dynamics and others too. But here's what makes this little guy so exciting, in my opinion. Most mobile robotic systems use cameras to create a map of the surrounding environment and then use that map to plan movements before executing them. All right. But this system uses vision and feedback from the body directly in real time as input to generate commands to the robot's motors. And by using this technique, if the robot slips on stairs, it can recover. And this is the most important part. It can go into unknown environments immediately and autonomously adapt on the fly. So this little guy, and I love this video, he can just go out there and start doing his thing. He doesn't have to be pre-programmed. He doesn't have to do a visual scan of the environment and then plot out its movements. It's just doing it like you and I would do it, or like our pet dog would do it, right?
Yeah. And
I just think this is fascinating.
Yeah, the video showed a lot of stairs. I'm glad that they kind of ended it with kind of off the path. There's a bunch of rocks around him just listening.
Yeah.
And this robot is, they're all loose rocks, so the rocks will shift as the robot slips on them.
Yep.
It may slip a little bit, but I mean, it gets there. It gets across these rocks very impressively. Yeah, and Ralph, and I guess the point of low cost, it's smaller and probably made, with more plastic, less metal, stuff like that. But to be able to, just use visual cameras and kind of its own built-in computer. This could probably come in at maybe $1,000 or $2,000 if I were to guess for the technology versus Boston Dynamics. They sell theirs for, I believe, $30,000 is the starting price. It can go up to like $80,000 or $90,000.
Yeah.
So two different machines, but this one looks much maybe more usable in an everyday setting. And obviously they have this thing going around universities. Ralph, if people want to put like a real world use case, you can imagine these things being delivery, sentry, cameras and stuff. So security personnel could check something out without having to go there themselves. Tons of use cases for this. They just have to get it affordable. Yeah.
Search and rescue. My friend Mark Mason hosted the Mark Mason Show on KEX Radio in Portland that you mentioned, where I do a weekly segment with him as well. He said, gosh, Ralph, you know what? Can you see these things being sent to Mars? Hundreds of them, and let them just run around, or the moon or whatever, exploring and doing their own thing. And because they have this autonomous adaptability capability, which I think really makes this little guy a standout. I just love this story, and I love that video. And by the way, friends, get the show notes, get the link to this video, because the narration, the speaker, the technicians talk about this is also very, very enlightening. So check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely check that out. And I guess sending these things to Mars is kind of like sending your pet upstate to the farm. I guess they have so much room to run around and play and scamper. Very happy for,
I love it.
For those drones. Story number 3. Story number 4. Let's talk about this. And as I was saying way at the beginning, the holidays, oh my God, Ralph, where did the year go? We're already back to it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know.
I know. So story number 4 could definitely be good. And I don't believe we're going to, actually story number 4. Yeah, we're not going to go over every single toy, but you picked out a couple here that you really liked. And I think this is a good time. So let's do this.
That's right. So the headline here, and I got this from Smithsonian Magazine, another wonderful outlet, Purdue University engineers recommend 10 toys to stimulate young minds. And I thought, well, the holiday season, if you're looking for a gift, this might be cool. So like I say in my little script here, if you're looking for a holiday gift for the little geek in your life that can build spatial reasoning, problem solving, coding, and design thinking skills, the team at Purdue University's Inspire Research Institute for Pre-College Engineering. Let that sink in. Isn't that cool? Inspire Research Institute for Pre-College Engineering. So these men and women are looking at what can we do to help the STEM educational process pre-college. God bless them for that. I think that's great. This team has put together a guide to skill building, mind stretching science, technology, engineering, and math toys. And basically what they've come up with and announced recently is a list of their top 10 toy picks for this holiday season. And in the show notes, again, the show notes, so important, you'll find a link to see all 10 of the recommendations, but I'm just going to give you a few, examples. So one example here is a toy called Intro to Gears for ages 3 and up. And in this product, kids can follow instructions to build 4 geared machines, so you can have pre-designed machines, or use their creativity to make whatever they want. And for kids as young as 3, simply placing the gears on a construction board, there's sort of a pegboard-like construction board that either can be flat or vertical and so forth, but just putting the little gears on that and spinning them is an entertaining activity that will teach resilience or resistance. And by that, they mean when a gear doesn't spin, they'll have to make changes to the design to correct it. Now, remember, we're talking about a kid as young as maybe 3 years of age. Very, very simplistic. Older kids, though, can create more advanced constructions by placing the gears at 90-degree angles from each other. So you can do all kinds of fun things. You can make up stuff or follow the directions of your choice. And you can find this little guy, this product, Intro to Gears, on Amazon for $39.95. It's available elsewhere, other outlets, but I just thought that'd be the simplest reference. Yeah. And then here's another toy that I thought was really cool, talking about coding. And you think, well, coding, it's kind of a hard concept maybe for little people, but this product for ages 4 and up, I thought was really cool. It's called Switcheroo. Switcheroo Coding Crew for ages 4 and up consists of an electronic toy car with 3 colored shells that kids can slide into the vehicle to turn it into different kinds of trucks. And the challenge cards lead children through storylines that encourage them to complete a task in the game Board City, perhaps driving to a certain location to help put out a fire, let's say. And the kids press buttons to code the car to perform its actions in a particular order. Drive forward 3 beats, then turn left, for example. So now you see the coding, right? And the game builds patience for trial and error, and it encourages children to identify problems and find solutions. And to think like a computer programmer is to step outside of how a human might approach a task and imagine what sort of prompting a machine would need to get the same thing done. So it's natural for us to think, I need to go from here over to the refrigerator, open the door, get the milk. We don't even think about it, right? What they're saying is this forces the child to think about, well, what steps I need to take 5 steps forward to get to the refrigerator door. I need to raise my arm up to this point to open the door. I'm just using an example of the kind of thinking process they're trying to stress with this toy. So again, this is called Switcheroo Coding Crew. Really cute. And for ages 4 and up. And I don't think I didn't catch the price, did I? Yeah, I should have got that.
Well, for I think you had that for $29.
Oh, in the show. Yeah. That's right. In the show notes. Yes. In the show notes, it has the price. Yeah.
And and really the full list is here. And, some of my favorite ones that were included in the list, the Mega Cyborg Hand, which is all about pneumatics and, a little bit of engineering. That one's really cool, 7 and up. And then this other one, I think it was Discover, which I've definitely heard about before, but wait, no, is it? Yeah. Discover. It's a construction kit and it has like pneumatics and, you can do other things with it. But Ralph, this one recycles cardboard, cardboard boxes that you get delivered to the house, almost every single day. Yeah. We always have so much cardboard lying around. I always think it's fun to, do something more useful with it than just throw it away.
Yeah.
So, they have some really, and of course there's more, definitely check out the show notes, more toys there, but all these are really good ideas. I'm going to save that. That actually helps me out a lot, Ralph. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, I hope so. I think it's great stuff.
And by the way, just one more comment on the coding thing. I remember, in a very, very early engineering class, we were kind of talking about this subject, and the teacher had, we spent a whole day on it as a class, and you had to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or at least write the instructions for a robot to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
There you go. And that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think everyone goes in there, even the most intelligent people, and they're just like, here's my steps. It's about 15 steps long, and the teacher would read through it line by line and go, robot approaches cabinet, grabs peanut butter, and the teacher's like, well, the cabinet door's closed, so the robot can't get the peanut butter, so go back and try again. And it took hours to get the proper steps to make a peanut butter and jelly. There you go. It's a complete shift, but hey, to introduce that to kids, they're very intelligent. So perfect.
Oh yeah.
So perfect story there.
Yeah, like a child's ability to learn languages. When they're little, they can pick up a foreign language so much faster than most adults, right? So their minds are malleable. Their minds are ready for this sort of thing. So that switcheroo coding crew, for example, could be a really interesting to try out with your little kiddies, grandkiddies, kids, whatever, 4 years of age and up. Really cool product.
Yep. And we're going to wrap this up with one more topic. And you included
bonus
here, a little bonus. You included here maybe some weekend watching.
Yes.
This is about Good Night Oppie. So what is this?
Yes, this is wonderful. And, I believe that's on Amazon Prime. Did I mention that in the
trailer?
Yes, it is Prime Video. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you have a Prime subscription, folks, you can access this absolutely wonderful, wonderful documentary. I loved it so much, I thought I'd add it as a fifth little nugget.
Sure.
We usually just do 4 stories. This is so great. So it's called Good Night Oppie. Oppie is the little nickname for the rover Opportunity. And it's a wonderful, wonderful film. I watched it the other night. It's just fantastic. You've got the trailer going on there in the video portion of our show here. And the film follows Opportunity, the Mars exploration rover, affectionately dubbed Oppie by her creators and scientists at NASA. And it was launched in July 7, 2003. Oppie was originally expected to live for only 90 days, and she ultimately explored Mars for nearly 15 years. Wow. And Oppie was one of 2 twin rovers, the other being Spirit. And Spirit eventually conked out, but Oppie went on and on and on and on for 15 years. And I can't stress enough about how charming and lovely and emotional this film is. I mean, I had tears in my eyes when Oppie died. But no, it's really wonderful. And it would be a great film maybe to show young people, to get them excited about all the way the mechanical engineers. It's really a tribute in large measure to the mechanical engineers behind these rovers and the challenges they had to face and all the testing they had to do. And the absolute freaking miracle of getting these things to land on Mars with these enormous parachutes, and then a retro rocket system that brought the whole thing to zero, and then dropped this bizarre, looked like a cluster of grapes, a balloon thing with the rovers inside, and this thing bounced around on the surface of the Mars, and then finally it opens up, and magically these little rovers are able to come off a platform. I mean, it's just... if you want to see a tribute, an incredible tribute to engineering, check out this little film. It's not that long. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that. It's not a long investment of time, but very much I recommend it for everybody in the family to check out. It's wonderful.
For sure. And and just reading even the Wikipedia article alone, it's really enlightening, and really goes to show that Ralph, like you said, they were expecting 3 months, they got 15 years, and just how much engineering NASA put into it.
Oh gosh,
you can imagine something that is only supposed to last that long, and it's over engineered to the point that it does that. It's amazing,
stunning.
Yeah, really. So with that being said, Ralph, thank you for the weekend watching, and thank you for the 4 stories. Everyone, we hope that we did indeed leave you feeling happier, better. Don't worry, there's more depressing news out there if you're looking for that. But ladies and gentlemen, we also have more uplifting news every Friday with Ralph Bond. So until next time, thank you so much, and we're going to have the show notes up. Everyone, if you want to find more Ralph, you can check out the playlist on YouTube. You can check out his website, and of course, all of his other segments that he does everywhere else. Ralph, thank you so much, and everyone else, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. Until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye.